good evening and welcome to the Just Jump In live stream and happy Friday. If you're here and lurking or just hanging out, just remember to say hi and let me know that my audio is working. I've been very lucky to have some success with technology. I haven't had a lot of interference, but every once in a while, some gremlins can get in there. So just let me know. Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate it. Welcome in, Jimmy Land. Ken, welcome in. You get the virtual cookie. Happy to have you in here. And Tim, welcome back. Appreciate you coming in. So this week was kind of a weird week. And so my main project didn't have any movement, but I did plenty of stuff to get myself in trouble, and we'll share that with you tonight. As you saw on the thumbnail, if you saw the thumbnail for tonight, you saw some pictures of the mess that was my 3D printer, and I think I posted it in some Facebook groups as well. Welcome in, Gopher Girl. Nice to have you in here. Nice that you still want to join me on my ventures here. I have a relic of that. So this piece here is essentially the heating unit. So the filament goes through a contraption that's on the front of it, but what heats that all up is this little piece right here. And this was the remnants of what I couldn't get off, but the plastic was wrapped all the way around, completely covered this up, completely covered the back end of it up and everything, and pulled it apart. And this essentially has a clasp here, and then another little metal clasp here to hold that one down, and then that what they call the hot end, where the filament goes through, is magnetically attached here and then locked in with those two. Well, this one eventually seized up and broke off. This one just disintegrated or disappeared, or maybe it's in here somewhere. Not really sure what happened, but so this is the first major issue that I've had. And with a part being destroyed, I thought that I would get some warranty service on this, but went back to Bamboo Labs, and they said that, even though I had been, this was on the fourth time I was printing the same thing, the same settings, with the same success. Welcome in, Mom. Appreciate you in here. And Real Artist, welcome. Nice to have you in here. I hope the cabin is going well for you. So I found out from them that even that it was a bed adhesion, meaning where the plastic sets down on the bed, the bed's heated, it keeps the plastic, warm and mushy, and it's supposed to. So what didn't happen is it didn't do that, and so that's why it filled up around the nozzle and everything. So they said that happens, and that's not really covered, and then conveniently gave me a link to their store to buy a new one of these. And there's this $19.99, and their shipping's pretty standard for small stuff. It's $7. Plus there's taxes. So it would have come out to $29 and change. And then I happen to remember when I was walking through a local mall, a guy opened up a 3D printing store where he printed stuff for people. He also sold printers, which included bamboo printers, and he had parts and accessories and filament and things like that. So he's given it a go there. So I went to the website that they had and sure enough, they had it, and you could do pickup, and that didn't cost anything. And so it was just the cost was his was a little higher. It was $22, I think $22.99 or $21.99 plus some tax. What it came out to was I got lucky and I saved $5 on it, and I could get it right away. I ran over during lunch the other day, and my printer's back up and running. But that was quite the adventure. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I thought I would show you all that. So, and that, and Jimmy, that's the advice I got from a lot of people online too, was it's a machine. It's constantly in use. It constantly needs upkeep, and you're going to spend some money. So I'm glad I had the experience at least and understand what I'm in for. Because I do try to keep it printing and keep it running. And if it's running all the time, then that makes sense. So there were a couple things that I also had mentioned online that so are we already talking hockey? That was quick. So yeah, Jimmy, a flat car load to the junker. And I need a flat car load anyway, and that has some weight to it. So I don't know if I could pull that off. So the other thing that, as you know, I have to get an odorless glue, odorless CA, because I apparently am allergic to it. So I've been using Bob Smith Industries odorless CA. Well, I was running out here. There's very little left in here, and it was drying up. So it costs for this 1 ounce locally. It costs $18.99 for this. It's much more expensive than their other Bob Smith Industry glues, and so I went online to look for some deals, and I went through Amazon, and for $23, I found a distributor that would do 2 ounces for $23. So much better deal on that. And so we have Amazon Prime. So, you still have to pay for it monthly. So you still can end up getting your money's worth with shipping if you buy enough stuff. And I think we do. And then they also have, and this takes a few seconds longer than regular CA to dry. So, I also had bought their Instaset, and it has a spray bottle. And what I didn't know there was any other way to do it, but use the spray bottle. And when you spray this, it's a forceful spray, and it's a big amount of spray that comes out. And if you have the glue there, and if it's a lot of spray and maybe a little bit extra glue, it can really gum up or look like a big mound. And I was having that problem with the flat car on the bottom, and that's why I did some weathering on the bottom to try and hide that a little bit. And then somebody was brilliant enough to say, you don't have to spray it. And I was running out. This is an empty bottle anyway. So also on Amazon, I was able to get an 8 ounce bottle for double the price of the 2 ounce bottle. So but you get 4 times the amount. And if I'm not, and I was like, well, I could fill the spray bottle. But then I remembered that I had gotten like 4 or 5 pack of these little squeeze bottles with, and I don't think it was the dollar store. I think this one I got at Michael's, but I think the dollar store has something similar, but it has the metal tip on the end, has a cover to keep things fresh if you want them fresh. So I just emptied out the rest of this bottle, and it wasn't spraying much, but look at how much is, I don't know if you can see how much is in there. It still wasn't getting this sprayed out, so that was a problem too. Well, I went and tested it, and you actually, at one little drop, it gets the area you need for one little drop of this. You don't need all that mess. So I learned my lesson on that too. Spend a little extra money, but we'll have this for a long time. And so I'm happy with that. And I'm happy that this works. I used it with something else, and I can't remember what else I used it with, but there's my messy writing, but it's the Instaset, so I make sure I have that. So that was some excitement with that, but I have enough glue to last me a long time. So I continued to work on the accessories for the dollhouse miniature set. And I wanted to see if I could print a clear sheet to go on here, because my cutting is terrible. So this fits perfectly in here, but as you can see with the filament printer, it's not clear. Now, when it's right up against something, you can see that, but as a display case, it didn't come out. And I did a couple of versions of this and got it lighter, but it didn't end up working out. So I moved to acetate, which most of us use for windows and everything. And I went to Michael's, had for $5 or something like that. Plus I had 30% off. So that was helpful. And so it was like $3.40, and it was 12 sheets of 6 by 6, 6-inch by 6-inch sheets of acetate. And this is 6 inches. This is 6 inches long here. It's a little bit shorter here, so you definitely have to cut it. But I have sheets of that. So I'll put one on this display. These tracks are all in. This was the frame that I did some painting. So this is kind of boring this way. So to kind of get it a little more exciting, and knowing that it was like a Lionel type of thing, the Santa Fe F7s that they have are kind of synonymous with that. So I grabbed a picture off of railroadpicturearchives.net and went to work just freehand painting this. And so not so bad for freehand painting. But I probably could clean this up a little bit. I used paint markers, those Posca paint markers I used for graffiti. I used for the wheels. I used for the yellow and red on here. Then I used some silver aluminum paint that I had. And for the trucks, I used one of my dark gray pens. I think it was either this one or something. It was something like this, but these are alcohol based, and they have a point on one end and a chisel on the other end for painting. And I got this idea from a modeling acquaintance named Greg Cassidy, who's a fantastic modeler. And he tried Copic markers, which are the same thing. These are a cheap Amazon brand, because Copic markers are very expensive, but he was painting stone with all the grays and stuff. And that's what gave me the idea to get those. I'm very suggestible, I guess, with all these tools. So then I printed. So then I was printing more of these, to have these on hand in case people wanted them, because people might just not only like it for the train setup, but dollhouse miniature pieces would certainly fit in here if somebody just liked it as a display case. And so I also printed this week the track, and I'll just have them on hand if somebody wants them, and I would give them the piece of acetate, the 4 tracks. If they want to use those, I'll keep them separate, and then the case. And so I thought, because not everybody's going to want it for the for train stuff, but they may just want it to have a display case on the wall of their dollhouse or something like that. So I'll have those supplies, and if probably just say it's a couple dollars and here you go, and just need to cut the acetate to fit, and you're good to go. So I was working on this, and I was printing extra ones. And so so it was the 4th time I was printing one of these, and that's when that happened. So you can see that's the color. That's the one that blew up this thing. So, but these are pretty easy to design and print. Otherwise, they print out pretty good. I had only one that had some failure on the back, but other than that, they all printed out nicely. So I was working on that, of course. Painted that. Then I was frustrated with all of my stuff all over the place, and things weren't reachable, and I was feeling stressed that they weren't organized. So I went out to Menards and bought a shelf for $23 with tax, a plastic shelf. And I've always struggled with I've had paper towels on the floor and all over, and they'd roll, and the paper towels would get all, messed up and everything. So since these are kind of modular shelves, there are holes if you wanted to build it bigger and get more legs and stuff, or get another set of shelves, you could do that. But me being who I am, I'm like, well, let me solve this with my 3D printer. So I set to measuring the hole and measuring how big you need for a to hold. I looked through all the paper towel holders out there, but there were none that were easy to hang. You all had to screw them into stuff or whatever. So, Mom, I got to ask you, I know you texted me on that. I got to get more understanding of what you mean by a base for the cabinet there. So we will talk this weekend about that. So I went about measuring and everything. And if you know me, and I've always told people I'm horrible at measuring. Nothing ever comes out. I'll measure 3-4 times, and it still doesn't come out. But I set about doing so. And so the other thing I wanted to do was it was going to be for this is, I think it was 12 inches or like 309 millimeters for the paper towel roll. That's too big for the Bamboo Labs machines. They're 256 millimeters cubed. So left, up, down, left, right, doesn't matter which way. I thought about trying to print this on an angle flat, but I think that would be tougher on making it a nice circular print. So I thought about doing what a lot of people do. If you look online and you look at the prints out there, they cut them in half size-wise. Let me pull this, probably be helpful. Print them in half size-wise, and then you create a hex screw type of thing. That's a little bit more advanced, and I was having trouble doing that. I was trying to follow lots of lots of tutorials and things, and I think it was a little bit beyond my abilities right now in Onshape. So I decided I could probably fit something snug if I get the measurements right. So when I went to do that, so I knew that I couldn't print it at 309 millimeters, so I cut it down to 200 millimeters, thinking this would stay up high enough to hold the paper towel steady. And I measured the width of the hole. I measured the outer width of this, and sure enough, I got this printed out to start with, but it didn't fit in the hole. It was too big. So there goes my measurement again. And the other thing I did was I was worried that this wouldn't fit in the hole if it was exactly the same size of the inner circle. So I made it like a couple tenths of a millimeter less. But when you do that, it goes right through. So I learned that lesson. So that was the prototype. So then I figured, well, let me mess with the measurements, but let's not use so much of the filament. And so I made a much smaller version here. And this is pretty lodged in there pretty good. So it took a lot less time and a lot less filament. So, I mean, it saved pennies, but the time was nicer. And sure enough, with a little force, this fits in. But then I put this in the hole on the shelf, and it was too small. So that was version number 2. So I knew that this was the inside piece was the correct width, but the outside of it was not. So I did it another time. So that fit in there real nice and snug. And this fit in, and it fits the paper towel hole. I have 2 types of paper towels. This one fits on here snugly just because, and that's what I want. I want to be able to just take a piece off and have it stay up there. And there's about an inch of space for it to sit down in. But this again is it's still too thin, so I got to make it, I don't know, 0.05 millimeters thicker on the outside, and I think I'll have it. But we'll continue to work on that. But that was measure and play to see where I could get. So I'm on my way. So I mean, even at this size, it holds the paper towels, but it's too loose, so it'll fall out anyway. So I just need to get that piece done, and then I have some sanity and organization. And the other thing that I had mentioned online was using a paintbrush to make weeds to enhance some of make the abandoned depot look even worse for wear. And so I went about doing that, and I don't know if you can see some of these examples, and I went by a specific person's version. And I've got like 5 or 6 of these that are they're flat. I couldn't get them to stay up. I couldn't get the timing right. I went and bought some. I haven't used Elmer's glue all in forever, but I went and bought that based on the suggestion. And so I have these problems where they're not going to stay up. They're too flat. So there's another example. And then I had a couple of successes. This one's not this one is stuck by that one. This one's not too bad. This one will stay up. That certainly has a chance of staying up. This one does as well, but much less success. And I remember thinking somebody doing something similar to my next attempt, and so I thought I would try it with, again, 3D printing. And I only did a couple of them. So I took the same piece of cardboard and it's a piece of packing tape on there. And then I built this contraption to be a few millimeters above to hold up the pieces. And so this one kind of flattened out a little bit, but mostly stayed up. It was a bit bigger. Now it got stuck to here. So unfortunately, that's something you have to consider, is to stay away from, to have this high enough that the glue is not going to touch it off of here. And so out of the two, I got one very much successful. It's a little big, but it's successful, and I can paint it, tease it out, do whatever I need. And so the idea of this is to sit this above your surface where you're going to glue, and to be a few millimeters above, and help it essentially stand up, since that's the problem I was having. And let's see if you can, so a little bit hard to see from top down, but that worked for those two for the most part. I again measured this out and took some guesses at sizes here. And so this needs to be higher up. I think this came out to measure at like 2 millimeters, but of course it's kind of fluffy or bent. So, and I did this at 5 millimeters. So these sides are 5 millimeters. So certainly could be higher. I just didn't want to be too high because I'm not going to make gigantic. I think this is still a little big for HO scale. I think something along the lines of this is probably more appropriate. So that was my prototype, and tried that out today, and got two working pieces, and I'll keep working on that. And then so that I can do some other things to it. I'm going to look at doing some other, I'm going to have to try and find some pictures. I could try and work on some trees. The diorama doesn't have trees. And a lot of times there's overgrowth, and that comes from trees, even if they're further away from a structure after there's no care taken and the branches aren't cut. So I certainly could do that to enhance it, but I just want to make it look a little junkier. I might try to do some mud piles or something like that before the convention in May. So I have a little bit of time. But that was the story of this week. That's what I was working on. So what is everybody else working on? And real artist, are you still doing your art? Your incredible drawings, or are you focusing on the layout now that you're moved in to your new place? And Ken, have you had any more operating sessions lately? Since the last time we talked, I think you had an operating session. Ah, that sounds fun. Is Jimmy, is it a vintage kit, or is it just vintage, like supposed to be a vintage motor hotel? And how do you like it? How are the directions? Oh, neat. So um, do you just go out and do you take pictures and bring them back and work, or do you go out and draw when you're out and looking at things at your architectural stuff? Are you doing it, Ken? Are you doing the structure for the 12 by 12 diorama? So it looks like everybody's working. That's good to see that everybody's working on something. Gopher Girl um, needs to get back to her Legos. Um, we're very much running out of space all around the place. So funny story, Ken. When the first convention that I went to, when we did the billboard, was the popular vote. So I got the instructions that here you get all these tickets, and then you put them in the top three. That's what I was told, and there were three billboards there. So I put in a ticket in each one of the three billboards, mine and the two others that were there. And I came in second. So I'm wondering if I lost by one vote. And if I did, it was my own fault. But that was a good time. So I'm actually happy that I have something built that fits. Because I really want to push myself to get back to working on that cab car. I feel like it's going to linger. And so I'm glad that I only have a few things to add to it at this point. So, and Mike, for whatever reason, it's not sticking in my head. I see your logo, and I see your name, Rail Artist, come up, and that's what I always remember. But I will try to remember, uh, um, Mike. I will try to remember, as names are not my strong uh, suit. And thanks, Ken. I thank you for saying I'm a good influence. I'm glad somebody's influenced by me. So anyway, um, so if you're wondering, so all this is you have the um, you have the you could do this on glass too. I could put this on, like, I have I have some tempered glass from a desk. It's not very clean, so it's not real great for this anymore. But let's see if I can get this on here without knocking anything over, which is probably not going to happen. But I certainly could try this instead of working on this with where the tape is. Could work on this, and I could still put something down. But essentially, what you do with this method is you put your dotted glue down, and you're supposed to let it skin over on top, and then you put your little gaggle of paintbrush hairs into it, and it's supposed to stay up. But that was the problem I was having, where it wasn't doing that. And so the idea would be, now here's the thing with this, for as small as I was thinking that I would want them, and you can't see this on camera, so that's not helpful. This is one of the smaller ones that I think fits well. It would hold it up like that. Now, with my fat fingers, I don't know how well this is going to work. It certainly works better with something small, like or something larger like this one. Now, I could do this, and then I could simply decide to, just come in with the scissors and a couple of pairs of scissors. Come in with the scissors because I think this one's too big or something. And then I could just make a mess and cut it down. So it's a little bit smaller, and it would work. But that's essentially how you do it. And then you let it dry. I think you let them dry overnight. But the glue all was the first glue that I was really using when I got into the hobby. That was the one that was suggested. And for white, and it's just generally white glue. I've gotten used to, when building wood structures and things like that, I've gotten used to using the wood glue, so Type Bond. But I've also liked the Aleene's tacky glue because it is tackier than this. And so I think that I would do just as well using the tacky glue with this process, and they may even stay up when you do it. Let's just give it a demo here. We're doing demos tonight. So I always keep one upside down, and I just fill this one back up. If you're looking for Aleene's tacky glue and you really don't want to pay a lot, you get this size bottle, or I've gotten this 3-ounce bottle from the dollar store. So for $1.25, not bad. So what I did after that, because it was just more, because I was using so much of it for building structures for a while. So I got this big 16-ounce bottle, and then I just fill this up as I go. But it was a good deal at 3 ounces. But just curious if I used this at this viscosity. If it would work at all. Let's see. So then you just kind of grab the loose ends of one of them, and as much as you want to grab. That keeps those together. And then essentially you put them in here. Now you can see gravity pulls them down, and this is angled too, but here's the difference between the glue all and the Aleene's tacky glue. Is this much thicker? So maybe I won't need something like this, but at least it challenged me. And I would clean this up as far as you wouldn't have all this here, and I'd probably make these rectangles more solid so that I'm just using the holes here. But just doing this now, of course I touched it, so I've made it fall, but you can still manipulate it. Now I think what the guy who was doing this, and it was Thunder Mesa Studios on the YouTube. So from manipulating this, obviously it's weakening and falling down for now. So probably even needs a little bit of a skin for this one. See if I can grab it. So this one probably needs it. I shouldn't have touched it. If I didn't touch it, it would have been fine, and it would have stayed in place. So I'll try the Aleene's more, and I'll let it get a skin too. and see if that works. And then these, you can either, you can put them out, stick them to something, like, get some tape and stick them down on the tape once you have them ready to go. And then you can paint them whatever you want to paint them, or if you want to paint them on the layout using an airbrush, you can easily do that without messing around with the rest of the scenery. But if I can stick them on here like this and they're all going to be similar, then I can get I can get my airbrush out and airbrush them and get them ready to go on the layout, or get them to go on the diorama. But that's what I'll continue to work on. Hey, Split Rock, welcome in. Appreciate you coming in tonight. Split Rock, what are you working on tonight? I kind of had I was talking about earlier, kind of an off week of haven't been working on the cab car. As you know, ran into the problems with my 3D printer, but got that up and running. And so I'm kind of prototyping things, getting more organized. So I was talking about me designing a paper towel holder, which I'm still trying to get the measurements right because I can't measure a thing right. And then this was to help with the with this process with the weeds. Oh, fun. Are we going to get a podcast soon? I've been waiting. But yeah, I'm gonna put this down while we're talking here. I'm gonna put a couple of these down now. In about 15 or 20 minutes, probably they should start to. Let's just start with 4 of them. And I'm interested to see the reason he liked the glue all is he felt they came out pretty clear, and they do generally. There's a little bit of a film to them, but you can easily hide that once it's glued down. Oh boy, is there another show tomorrow? So, Splarak, I don't think you heard me rant the last time about the shows in the Twin Cities, and just wasn't getting a lot of variety. But the show last weekend was the first time I got to that one, and the fact that it was a swap meet was more fun because there was a lot of just stuff you don't see at the other shows where you see mostly the same people and the same stuff. Hey, Kyle, welcome in. Nice to see you in here. Appreciate you stopping by. Oh, nice. Fridays and Saturdays is off. So, I almost walked out of the Randolph show really disappointed. When I had walked through there, not that I shouldn't have been able to find it, but you had a couple hallways where you had some non-model railroad related stuff. You had the entertainment on the outside, and then you had a couple of vendors down those hallways. And I thought, well, this is it. I don't see anything else. And I don't know how I found it, but I went through one last walkthrough. And then I found the main gymnasium. and they I might be blind. They might have had great signs up, and I might have been blind, but I didn't see it. And then I finally went in there, and I did get, what did I get? I got a couple things. Of course, they're nothing exciting, no engines or anything. I just got a bunch of used stuff. I've got shims for wheel sets for ever now. These are supposed to be 010, and these I think are 015. And this is way more in here than in both of them than we're in a regular package, and I think it was $3 for that. What else did I get? I got one other thing that was supplies, and of course, I don't remember what that was now, and I don't have it in front of me. And then the other thing I got was an old wood kit that had it was a station platform, and it had, for the roof, it had these metal poles, and they're the same ones I saw that Scale Model Supply had, and I was going to buy them to use them or to use something like them on the New Brunswick station platform, although they were a little bit different, and I was going to see if there was a way for me to machine them to cut them down a little bit. And somebody bought the 2 packages at Scale Model Supply, and I just don't think he'll ever get those in again. But I saw this platform, and let me go that kit. Not sure. I've seen these boxes. Not sure I know this company, and maybe some of you do, but it's called Sidem, and it's a building platform. And the guy had it for $15, and he said, "Make me an offer." I said, $10. He said, "Good." And so it has 5 of these here, and there's a company that makes these. I don't know if they still make them, but yeah, it's definitely a box of sticks and cardboard, basically, and paper. But these are what I was kind of interested in. Now, for New Brunswick Station, on both sides of the tracks, they have basically half of this. So they have this piece coming out for the awning and coming down. They don't, and it's a little more square than this. So I would have to kind of figure out a way to machine this off, or get some help from the guys in the Twin Cities division to cut that off if I was going to get it as close to the prototype. But I thought, why not? I'll go for it. So there were 5 that come in here. But otherwise, the paper, station names, and like you said, box of sticks, and only a couple. There's not much to this. It looks like this. This is your platform. It looks like where these would go in. Something like that, I'm sure. And then it looks like these would be the awning part of it. And that looks like that's about it. Here's your directions for it. So I don't know if there's any other piece that's missing from here, or you're supposed to use the backing of this for anything. But anyway, I didn't buy it to build the platform. I bought it for those. It smells old too. Oh boy. But yeah, so I came away with that. I think it was $7 to get into that show. Spent $10 on that. Spent $3 on that, and whatever the other thing I bought. Why I can't remember what it is. Was I bought for like $1. But it was more supply stuff. I'm sure my mom will tell you on here. She gets frustrated that I buy supplies and build stuff. She always wants me to buy, like a nice shiny engine and then, design it up and have it running and stuff. But, I prefer the box of sticks type of thing in building. I hope your kit box doesn't smell as bad as this one does. It smells like it's been in a home for a very long time, but at least it doesn't smell smoky or anything. But yeah. Great Northern 70, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming in here. I really would like to, I get it Saturday mornings for whatever reason, I have a hard time getting going. Now, if I have a destination, I get up and go, but to get into the room and model, for whatever reason, I'm slow on Saturday mornings and stuff. I do come home pretty jazzed from shows and stuff, even if I don't get much or do much at them. But I think I think I just get more energy by doing that, and so keeping that in mind, I'll probably go tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. So, so is that what everybody does with these older kids? Just puts them on a shelf for a while, and when they're bored, they get to them. I've seen the boxes around, and I just never. I'm pretty sure Scale Model Supply has them too. I just never look closely at them. So, yeah, Gopher Girl, the dogs do tend to distract me. My only problem now, so the dogs got to be sick of looking up at us, because our dogs are smaller. Um, I think they're in the 50-pound range, somewhere in there, less than 50 pounds. But they're always looking up at us. It's amazing how exciting they get when when they when you get down to their level, just absolutely excited and want to be all over you. And our older dog Kaya doesn't like to be all over you, but she does get that way. The only problem now as I age is it's getting harder and harder to get up from there. And I'm afraid one day I'm going to go down and not get back up. So Split Rock with that kit though, there's not enough there to build anything really, But I get it. You probably could because it's a box of sticks. I assume Campbell's kits. I haven't looked too closely at Campbell's kits, but I assume um, they're about the same. Um, Box of sticks. They could be used too. So Kyle, it, I have plenty of buildings that don't fit on my layout and stuff that I've done. Just do it for the fun of doing it. Do it to get better at it so that you can put some pretty fantastic buildings on your layout when you get the right ones. Don't ever don't ever shy away from building stuff, because you know what, there are going to be other model railroaders out there that don't want to build, that will take the kid off your hands that you built, or the scratch build that you built. So I would just say go for it, build. But I know you're starting a new layout and everything, and so you want to get moving on that, so I get that too. But there will be some downtimes or times when you're frustrated with your layout or whatever. Take those times to build kits. They're um, well, Ken. Okay, you have a head start on me, Ken. But um, my body's starting to react in a way that it didn't before to things. Like, it curses me out a lot. I bet it has, Split Rock. Have a good night, Mom. Good luck with your Rangers. So I was the hockey fan growing up. Used to watch the Rangers religiously. Used to get in trouble. I had a TV that had controls on it where you could, dim the light on it, and so I listened to it really low. And when I was younger, when the parents were still checking on me, and um, then they'd be done, and I know they wouldn't check on me for a while, so I turned the video up on the TV, and and um, watch the games that way. But I was a diehard Ranger fan growing up. I had a chance to go to the playoffs one year, and I couldn't get friends' parents wouldn't let I want. They used to do it where you send in as many 3x5 index cards as you want to try and get tickets, and I put, and you can only have so many in your name, so I put my parents' names on them, brothers' names, friends' names, whatever. And the ones that had my dad's name on them actually won, and so we got tickets to the playoffs. And my parents trusted me to go to because you could take the train, New Jersey Transit, into Penn Station in New York, and all you have to do is walk upstairs, because right above Penn Station was Madison Square. It is Madison Square Garden, and I asked every friend; they all wanted to go, but their parents would say no. We couldn't go together on the train uh, to New York, and so my dad went, and I tried to, for the longest time, get my mom to sit down and watch hockey. My brother never. He was more of a football guy at first, and then um, then we went to so my dad ended up going with me to the playoffs that year, and he loved it. And he got my mom, of course, to sit down and watch. And then at some point, my brother started watching, and it just became nuts. And I didn't want to associate with them. It became super crazy um, in the house with the games and stuff, and it was no longer my thing. So, um, but I'm still a hockey fan to this day, and unfortunately, even though I'm still married to Gopher Girl, she was an Islander fan, and we just can't have that. And so we converted her. She became a Ranger fan. Now she loves Minnesota sports, so she's a Minnesota fan too. Um, and so we love hockey, and and I never played it organized. I played street hockey, played ball hockey indoors, but never truly um, organized hockey. Never had a rink to go to or anything like that, but I would have loved to play. So, Yeah, Jimmy, I got into because of a show called New Tracks Modeling. I started on my first Craftsman kit and started to really enjoy building. And I come more. I mean, I was a fan of trains when I was younger because of New Jersey Transit. I used to take that to New York all the time, and so I was always around them, I guess you would say. But I wasn't, I'm not I don't know all the little details, and it's taken me a while to understand what a coupler cut lever is and things like that. Um, and I live in an area with an NMRA group that is filled with engineers. Split Rock, for instance, who's on the call, uh, um, is one of those. And and the whole group, they're further along in their modeling than I am, and so they're into operations, and so I'm trying to get into it, but I feel lost sometimes just because I don't know as much as they do about the railroad. I'm not one of those that's going to know the different which horn is supposed to be on which cab, and that a this engine was formerly of this line and was bought by this line, and you could tell by the fans on it or whatever. I'm not quite there with that. I think I'm going to end up being that way with New Jersey Transit with the stuff I'm learning just for researching for my railroad. But I appreciate that expertise um, in the Twin Cities, and that's why I like the podcast. While a lot of times they're not about the modeling and they're more about the operations, it speaks to this group and it speaks to a wide ranging group of people from all over the world, and so it's fun to listen to. And I hope someday it'll sink in and I'll really get into operations. Uh, but I really, I really like building stuff. How much, Kyle, how much, first of all, what scale are you? What are you, how many industries are you looking to have on the layout? Um, are you trying to get it towards a prototype, like a prototype? Is it completely freelanced? So that's very specific, Ken. For the high top tables. So you're like in a high top table you're talking about in a bar, but you need to find the right size. Hey, Colin, welcome in. Nice to have you in here. That's fine. This is a pretty late live stream anyway. I'm glad to have you in here, hanging out with us. What are you working on tonight? As you can see here, I'm working on getting shrubs for um, the um, the 12 by 12 diorama with the abandoned station that I'll bring to the convention. So, interestingly enough, I'm immediately much more comfortable using the Aliens Tacky Glue, and you can see it actually worked on a first shot. Well, second shot since that one didn't work, so I'll give you that. Um, but I like that. I just think this is a little bit more watery. That's all. It's still a good glue. I'll still use it on stuff, but I think I'll stick with this now. Um, you know, um, the guy from Thunder Mesa Studios was saying, the reason he used this one is because it dries clear. Um, and doesn't show up on the layout as much. I'm curious to see. I've never really noticed the Aliens Tacky Glue drying. Now these are a little bit thicker, but I've never had a problem with that. And you can paint that, the glue pieces, so you can hide that. So we'll see how this comes out. So I may not need this, but I enjoy at least trying to make stuff. I love making stuff. So even with whether it's a kit or scratch building in the hobby or 3D printing, um, I love the design piece of it. You know, I have a circle tool now, but I don't know if it's how small it will cut things. But of course, you clean up everything, you organize everything, then you can't find anything. That's how I grew up and why I wouldn't clean my room when I was younger. My dad would have none of that. He would just throw everything out he found on the floor. All right. What the heck did I do with it? Oh, there it is. So again, this is what I started trying. This contraption has a blade and a point in here. So you stick it around and then you go around and you use this to go around. And it has measurements on here. So if you're like doing styrene, you can use something like this, although this is about as small as it goes. And that looks like that's, I don't know if they consider that just about a ½ inch there. Is that inches? Yep, it's inches. That's just where it's so, and you can this pulls out like this, and also so you can have it go as far out as you need or as close as you need. But of all of us in our model railroading have something, have something smaller. So Ken, if you think, I never even noticed, what is this here? I don't even know what that goes to. Interesting. Probably should know what my tools do. But if you're interested, Ken, in trying to use this on styrene or something, this might help you make a circle. So, yeah. Now I want to know what that little dotty thing is for. And why it's on there. I have no idea. Well, there you go. But if you want to try this, it has extra blades in here and everything. This, I don't think I've changed this blade in forever. Probably could use a change in there. But it helped me do some circles. So I've got a picture of this now because I don't think I've looked at a video in a while, Colin. You said getting track around the big station. Are you just saying you're putting it through the station, not technically around it, or are you actually trying to put track around it? Yeah. So I suppose you could also, if you want, I don't know if you have anything, I don't know what would cut wood, but you could do a dowel and cut it real small, like, you know, not real long, and get the right round size that you need. Are you looking to have the edge of it rounded or anything like that? And what are you gonna paint them? So this is at least encouraging, though. That this works this way, and then the next thing will be just to paint them and find places to put them on the layout on the diorama. Let me grab the diorama and show you. It's been a while. See if I can even fit this in here. I don't know if I can, but this is, let's see, yeah, going up. So here's where I really tried to use the static grass, and I just wasn't successful when I did it. I tried to make this look, you know, kind of muddy around here. This is where the station is. What I think I need to do on here is to make some cracks in here, either with a, is that dust? Oh, wow. It's been sitting on the shelf. Make some cracks, maybe with one of the paint markers. So I could do something like, you know, use the paint marker and do the cracks, or the other thing I can try, and I tried this a while ago. Let me see if I can find it. I have basically like some crackle paste type stuff, not the fancy stuff that Boomer has, the more expensive stuff. I go for cheap. I wonder what I did with it. Let's just see. Oh, so, you know, here are the other two bottles. Getting sidetracked on myself, but I do have like a crackle paste type of thing somewhere. Oh, it's probably within my paints here. That and certainly could be. You could try. Nope, it's just. Where did I put it? So, of course, now once again, cleaned up, organized, and now I can't find stuff. Let's paint. Let's paint. Okay, so you'll just have to believe me, but I have this crackle stuff that you put over top, and or you can put on paint and it'll make the paint crackle. So I could certainly try something like that on here. And then I was just thinking of also making this just kind of wet in some areas, and then put some of the tufts down and around, and, you know, obviously just to grow it up some more, you know, it can be along the way there, and it's not much with one of them, but if you get a few out there and you paint them up, they'll look good. And then I could certainly try to do some more trees and put them like in the back and trying to have them overgrow onto the station. And I think it'll be nice. And I may vote for everybody else, but I'll at least give myself one vote. And so that's what we're looking into that. I'm going to get preoccupied and I'm going to stop being able to talk because I got to find that crackle paste now. But here are two other bottles. I was telling you about these bottles, and this one's kind of dried up in here, so that it didn't hold it solid. So that's still liquid in there. But what I did with these was when I was working on something in a tight space, where down on my layout, I have everything for ballasting. So I have wet water and glue and everything. I was working in a smaller space, and so I just used these, and it took drops, and it was fantastic just to take the drops. Oh, it was the dollhouse train table. I was using that to put the ballast down, and then I'd use the wet water and the glue, and then I'd do the same thing on the scenery for it, on the ground foam and stuff. And this worked fantastically well for drops in there, and so it wasn't overdone. So yeah, these came out, they were, cheap little things, and they came out working pretty good. So if I could swear they're from the dollar store. But from their art, they have like an art section, and they're in a little package there. I'm pretty sure that's where it was. My close hobby stories are about. Yeah, rail artists. We're really down to. I would consider it down to one hobby shop. Hobby to me is a toy store. They overcharge, so they go up above retail price or MSRP on their models and on all that stuff, scenery products and everything like that. I do go to them like I was going to them for the glue. It was just what was available. They actually had the order list there. And so there's lots of supplies I got there. Their wood selection is good. So if you're scratch building with wood, the styrene selection is pretty decent. But again, they charge more for the styrene. The wood's cheap, or was. I don't know how it is now. But it's just frustrating with them there, and they just don't have the little things that modelers need from the train perspective, like Scale Model Supply does. So that was helpful. I don't know if Becker was around when you were in town, Mike, but he retired, and so his store went away. I know he had some online sales for a while. I don't think he's doing anything. But even the places years ago, I think Car Hobby went away in St. Cloud. It's getting really slim as far as hobby shops around here. But, Scale Model Supply isn't too bad when you need stuff. They've got lots and lots of parts. So he hasn't got. I know that he was gonna Split Rack. He was gonna have his son, I think, run the online stuff to get rid of that. I don't know if his son maybe did he restock? Does he have new stuff? Hey, N-Scale Train Boy, welcome in. So the thing I found with Hobby Lobby, and it depends on which Hobby Lobby you go to in which area, they have had they've had a small selection of styrene and the brass tubing and things like that that you won't get at Michael's. Um, it's too bad Joann's is going out of business. I found some deals on stuff for airbrushing and things like that there, and the few Joannes around us are pretty much weren't are having been giving these deep discounts from going out of business. They're still kind of on the beginning ends of that, and so it wasn't worth just buying extra supplies of stuff. Like I've been getting my airbrush cleaner from them, um, which is this Medea airbrush cleaner. Um, and so now I get in a big bottle like this. And I was traveling, and we found a Hobby Lobby. It had this at a great price at $6.99. I snagged this bottle, but the next best prices were Joann's that had this, and you know, just 10% is 10%, but 10% off, I can find 10% off sale somewhere that has that, then I'm fine with that. If it was 50% off or something, I would have snagged it up if they had something. They just didn't. A couple places I have. I also have a hollow core door that's still sitting there that has Cato track on it that I haven't taken off. Also has it's all wired still. Um, has the feeders still in it. I sold my collection after what I could get rid of at the trunk sales. I sold my correct collection of Big John's trains not too long ago, and so now I saw what he had out at the Randolph show. He had a couple of my pieces out there, and so hopefully he's making some money off of it. I just didn't want the stress of me sitting at a show trying to sell off the stuff. And he got a pretty good deal for what was in there, and hopefully he can make his money back. There's one train set, an Amtrak train set, I think he could make a ton of money on and make most of it back. So good deal for him, good deal for me. I didn't expect much money for the stuff anyway, and made a good deal with one of the places in town who took a tray of my rolling stock from the first trunk sale, and I made some good money off of that and stuff. So it's all good. So what was happening? N scale train boy. What's going on with the electrical? Oh, okay. I have NCE as well, so that's good. Um, so yeah, they're proud. The train sets, the North Star train sets, are probably worth more than the actual engines and cars themselves. The way they've put that um, uh, set up together. My wife and I, early on, when those plans were being made, we thought about buying land between St. Cloud and the Twin Cities, and I'm glad we didn't, because that the the train actually stops in Big Lake, and then you have to take a shuttle bus to St. Cloud and back. Um, but they're nice engine. They're nice. They have a nice paint scheme. Paint scheme. I really like them, but they're pretty expensive. Um, but so are any new engines like that and cars like that. Hey, real artist, welcome, Mike. Well, I appreciate you coming in, and have a good night, and hope you have a good tomorrow. So, one of the things with my system was with the wires, the cat. I don't know if they're called Cat 4 or Cat 5 wires, what they're called exactly, but those wires that you plug into the PCP, and the command unit are, they get moved around a lot because you're tethered, and those things jimmy free after a while. So I actually had problems too. I sent the cab unit back to NCE. It took them a long time, but they fixed that, and then I started to have problems in the PCP unit. I ended up buying another one. Well, that's not true. I bought another one because I have some modules that I put together, and then I have my N scale layout. So I bought a second one. But that one was going, and it wasn't connecting well. So I actually, um, you know, watched some videos, and learned how to, that it's not a big deal to put those wires together and get the right connections and everything. And um, so I was able to do that. So I bought a bunch of the little connectors, um, and the wire for it. And so I've been, when it's kind of when those are kind of coming free or not sticking, it's usually the wire and not the PCP or the command station. So I've just replaced the wire, um, and that seems to have worked. So RP, well, I don't have a concept anymore of the prices of things that I haven't bought in a while, but PCPs weren't that expensive. Well, I should say they weren't $30 in the past, so hopefully they're not still $30. Um, yep, RJ12s, and I also got, I probably have it in, it's in my other room, but I got a crimper specifically for the RJ12 plugs and everything, and it works fine, and so I was able to get, wire really cheap, and the RJ12 plugs themselves cheap. You are old school, Colin, but that's what we love about you, and your incredible ability to build really small stuff really well. Um, so, and now nothing. Did you reach out to NCE on that to see what they had to say? You know how many times I plug the cable into the right side of the PCP, and it doesn't work for me. So make sure it's right side up and you're plugging it into the left side. If you've done that, you've done about as good of tech support as you could. Um, I'm sure there are, Colin. A lot of people still actually like DC because they're used to running stuff that way. That's the thing I hear the most, is they're just used to running stuff that way, and they don't need extra features necessarily. Um, so so they enjoy that, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Also, make sure um, make sure that the wall wart plug is not the issue as well. Make sure that connection is strong, so that you're getting power there. So, I started with, when I went to N scale, I started with Cato because the track was supposed to be, um, you know, um, you weren't supposed to be able to screw it up, and I can tell you, I still was able to, but it still has been the strongest track. Connections have been the easiest. Um, it was my own inexperience. Um, the first DCC system I ever had, I I crossed up the wires and blew the thing. It was an Atlas system. It was supposed to be top of the line back then. At least that's what they told me. So, but yeah. Nobody likes the bells after all the sound stuff and everything, Colin. Nobody likes the bells. They like the whistles. They don't like the bells, though. So. Oh, sounds like it's raining outside tonight. My head certainly feels like it is. I'll have to check them out. You said L. Jeff in scale. Oh, he's got a lot of videos on his channel or her channel. I'll have to check out his Amtrak Pacific Surfliner. Cool. I'll have to check him out. Yeah, where I can operate is Gopher Girl is in that area, and she yells at me and I have to turn the sound down. But the bell can get annoying for sure. A lot of people will do like maybe one locomotive with sound and the others without sound, so it doesn't get overwhelming. Yeah, why not, Colin? You're doing a lot of work. Where's all your videos? So I wish I had an area where I could solder while I was talking to you guys, but I use a fan that sucks up all the fumes and fill the fan and filter, and it'd be too loud. You won't be able to hear me. At least obviously she still allows you to have the hobby, Jimmy, so you're still good. I'm sure there are lots of people who would love to see you're working on your helix, and You know, you could do like I do. When I screw up, I make sure to film that stuff. That's way more entertaining than when I do stuff right, because I don't do a lot of stuff right. Well, I would hold on to her, train boy. Um, keep her interested in the hobby. I lost that battle. And, you know, Gopher Girl is into Legos. And to be honest, it's a way more expensive hobby than model railroading. Or maybe I'm just miserly with the money, and you can't be miserly if she builds the kits with Lego. So, you know, those are all price controlled. And so we have to pay what we have to pay for it. So unfortunately. Oh, I suppose if you have three, when you, if you're consisting those engines, though, Kyle, would they all have separate sounds when they're in a consist, or are they just all separately running and have the sounds? I'm gonna have to try do some GoFundMe or something so I can um, get more equipment so that I can have a setup where I can show you the work I'm doing. See, but can you have a basement where, you know, she can shut the door and lock it on you if she really isn't putting up with you anymore? So, um, you have a safe zone down there. I'm sure you could survive down there. It's because you got trains. So, so what I was working on tonight here is for uh, our NMRA convention coming up in May. The theme is um, 12 by 12. So you have to build something that the base of it is essentially is no bigger than 12 by 12, and it can be as high as you want. I've already built a 12 by 12 module, I guess you'd say, for an abandoned station that I built a while back out of a Blair line kit. And so it still needs more, in my opinion, more detail. I'm not great. I haven't been great at detailing. So I've been on the cheap building these little weeds because my skills with the static grass are not good. But let me grab that and I'll show you what. So we'll start with the base. And again, here's my equipment problem. I can't get much further away from that. We can try, but get that out of the way. But here's the base. So the station will go here. So I have some little track, and that's where I was trying to do the static grass, and then everything else is woodland scenic stuff. Put up a half a fence and weathered the fence, so it could use more detail. I was talking about tonight, maybe putting some cracks in the concrete. And so this is the abandoned station. So this is the roof. Has graffiti all over it, graffiti on the inside, broken wood. So I basically never completely built the roof. I just broke up the roof and built parts of it and chewed it up and to make it look beat up. Here's the inside. You could see some of the wood piles and some other junk. That's chimney pieces that have fallen through. There's graffiti and rot on the inside. Graffiti on that side as well. There's a train coupler in the corner. I don't know if you can see that well. On this side, I don't know why there's tires in there. I had tires. I built benches for, passenger seating, and then broke them up. Had some barrels and stuff and other debris. Here's the front end. This is the front. So this would sit like this. And so I was practicing graffiti, which I had never done before, and breaking up these windows and everything. So this is already done and ready to go. And if you're interested, I think I have a short and a video out there, and apparently a loose piece of wood in here, highlighting my build of this. But at least you can either see with it on there, or you can pull it off to see the detail on there. And then isn't a really, I don't know if there's a really good way to show this, but this would basically sit on here like this, so that the platform area here could use some weathering, and it just could use some more grunge and problems on there. But this is otherwise all built. I just want to enhance it for the convention. So we're just watching glue dry otherwise here. So, sorry. You don't need to see my belly on the camera. So, hey, Brad, welcome in. Nice to have you in here. You've been doing a lot of work on your layout, that's for sure. Been keeping up with that. Thanks, Train Boy. I appreciate it. You sure you want me to practice on your stuff, Ken? It's going to be the flattest stuff you'll ever see. It'll be flatter than Woodland Scenic stuff. I just wanted to do something different. I had done I think 2 other Blair Line kits or something. And so when I got that, and I wanted to try to build the station, so I got that one, and I was just like, it was inspired to do something different. And I don't remember who on who uses these. I know I'm subscribed to him, but he uses these Posca paint markers. So they have different thicknesses, and this actually looks thick, but it's actually comes out to a really, you can have a really thin lines and dots and small stuff. And so, so inspired by that, and I again waited till I could get a really good coupon. I think I had a 50% off coupon. They don't ever have those anymore, because those Posca paint markers are pretty expensive. And so I did that, and I just kind of went nuts with it, and then it inspired me to break up the roof and everything. And there are 2 decals on there from Blair Line. Puts out sets of graffiti decals, and so I used those 2 on their ones on one wall and the others on the roof, and they blend in pretty good. And the rest is just very, very much vandalism versus actual artistic graffiti. Have a good night, Train Boy. Well, happy to have you in here. Garbage for sure. Need to have garbage in the scene. So I'm gonna have to find some really, really small garbage. So some So I wonder what I could find if I go to the Century College train show. Um, I wonder if that's the one where I got a guy was like trying to push like everything he could on me. I bought some Woodland Scenic Snow in one of those bottles from him for cheap, and he's trying to get me to buy more stuff, but he didn't have anything else that I needed. I still have to pay for the hotel and for the registration for the um, for the convention coming up in May. So I've got to make sure I don't. And I got to have money for that for the silent auction. So I got to make sure I put some money aside. I can't spend too much. So that one is 9 to 2. That show. So that one's also $7 to get in. So when I go to these train shows for those prices, those are basically what I spend in shipping on a lot of stuff. So the so I just think of it as shipping when I'm going to look to buy something there versus buying it online somewhere, and then I just compare the prices. So oftentimes the train show still works out the best. Yeah. Even the fluffy stuff, Colin. So when I finally get to it, I build the New Brunswick train station. Uh, the so the station itself is really separate, but it has like a connection to the platform built into it, and so there's a gap between the track side and the station platform and the building itself. So I always remember there being a bunch of trash between there, and it was probably a 10-foot drop or so. And I always remember trash being down there from bottles and cans and all kinds of um, other stuff. Um, so yeah, so I'll have to do that for that, and that'll be good practice to do on here. Maybe see if I can do some bottles or things like that. I don't know how I would do cans or anything. Um, that's a bit small, but definitely definitely could use some trash and like I said, I was thinking of maybe using something to make some of the piles. Some of the stuff look more muddy. Um, I think that would do some good to be a little bit more muddy looking as well. I mean, it looks muddy, but it looks dry. So some kind of like Mod Podge would work, like some gloss Mod Podge would work over some of that. So, yeah. But we'll see him. We got to see what Gopher Girl's doing tomorrow. I mean, there's basketball on, so I'm sure she's going to be glued in front of the TV for that. There's no more hockey really for us with the Gophers out when they were robbed of their game. This one doesn't want to stay up. Oh no, you've got a crash. Let's try this. This might be a little wet still. I waited about 15 minutes. Yep, these are a little bit wet. So we'll pull these out. They'll dry on the side here. So those kind of dry together, but yeah. So does anybody do like newspaper as trash anymore? It would be really, really small in HO. Have a good night, Ken. We'll see you next week. Appreciate you stopping in. What was I going to say? Wondering what other, I mean, I could do like wood piles. I probably could use a little styrene and paint it like an aluminum color and do some, like, I don't know if I could do some metal looking things. But wondering, I mean, it's old, that around the station, it's going to be all wood. Yeah, so I'll have to figure it out. But I was just, from a scenery standpoint, I just know it could be a little better. And then hopefully I'll get moving on the cab car. Now, if I spend the whole day out tomorrow with train stuff, I probably won't get to anything on it, but I'll probably work on stuff on Sunday then. But yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead because I might go to the show tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. I'm going to try and let these dry a little more and get some of these back in there and see if I can get them to stand up. Just had a fun time hanging out, giving you an update where I'm at. I'm going to try to get back to that. I'm going to try to hopefully have some kind of update on the cab car next week. Would be nice to have an update on that. If I'm not still playing with my 3D printer with all these extra little things, and if I can get back focused on that. Like I always say, just jump in and try something. You may actually like it, may start down a path that like this, with a hobby like this, and if it doesn't work out, try something else, but just jump in. And have a good night, everybody.